welcome back to another episode of Question Period. Yesterday, knocked it out of the park. Holy smokes. Justin Trudeau showed up with his hands ready to fight, and Pierre Poilievre really stuck it to him. There were zingers on both sides of the bench. There were some interruptions by your none other than the House Speaker, who likes to abuse the mic button. You know, it's not surprising considering he has a lot of previous ethics violations, so he's not really the best guy for the job, yet we give him all of the power in the House. And speaking of power, you right now have the option to decide whether you want to hit that like button once, 3 times, or 5 times. Don't hit it 2, 4, 6, or 8 times, because then you'll hit it and then you'll hit it off. But you might as well smash that like button so it stays nice and firm. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. And then once you are subscribed, it would be super awesome if you hit that little bell icon that shows up so you can actually be notified of upcoming videos. Look, I don't rehearse this to be annoying or to be consistent. I do it because YouTube unsubscribes people, whether it's manually, whether it's automatic, it doesn't really matter. But YouTube, we know they got their own little system going, and it's never really beneficial to creators. So just check to see if you're subscribed, because chances are you could be unsubscribed. We got a good session lined up for today. Pierre scheduled to be in the House. We don't know if Jagmeet's going to be here. It's interesting because Jagmeet Singh has appeared less in the House of Commons than Justin Trudeau this week. It's almost like he has an ego complex and thinks that he's the guy, but we all know he's not the guy. Even Justin Trudeau ain't the guy. Pierre, he might be the guy. We all think he's the guy. Let's get some W's nice and early here in the stream for Pierre. He's going to show up today. He's got a lot of ammunition. Pablo Rodriguez, Liberal Transport Minister, said bye-bye. He's leaving the Liberal cabinet. He wants nothing to do with Justin Trudeau. He wants nothing to do with the Liberal tanking Titanic. He's going to Quebec. So you got a Liberal MP who's been a Liberal MP for like 20 years said, yeah, no, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm going to Quebec. So he's going down to Quebec to run with the Bloc, I guess. It's kind of crazy how many people have left Justin Trudeau. Why hold on? Why hold on to Justin Trudeau's team? It doesn't make any sense. He's going to lose. You check the polls. He's the worst party. You might even see Green Party get better polling than him. Like, it doesn't make any sense how this dude is still in power. But nonetheless, we're going to hit the ground running here. We got Stronghold Dawn is giving a speech right now. They're doing their little shebang before they get into statements by members, which is a precursor to question period. So one last reminder, if you haven't yet already, smash that like button, subscribe, and we are a little bit early. So you got time to get yourself a coffee. I got my coffee right here, but hopefully I won't chug it all before QP starts. You guys time to get situated. If you're on lunch break at work, whatever it is, get your food all nice and ready, and let's just see what's going on the House floor, shall we? Let's take a little look-see-poo.
Of survivors of sexual trauma and violence. And I would actually like to point out to the fact that
Stronghold Dawn was just talking.
At their Conservative Party convention in 2023, in a speech by one of their main spokespeople, he talked about Canadian values being destroyed due to a lack of leadership and a woke movement that panders to national special interests. He continued to say on a Jordan Peterson podcast, where he actually openly questions the existence of a sexual misconduct crisis. So I'd ask the Conservative Party to look within as to who they're listening to in terms of sexual misconduct and violence, as opposed to maybe them taking the time to listen to survivors.
Questions et commentaires, questions and comments. L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Shefford. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I thank my colleague, the member for London Fanshawe, with whom I worked on this file in Status of Women, on the Status of Women Committee. What strikes me in her speech and what strikes me today is that we're still discussing this in 2024. In 2015, even before the Liberals took office and formed government, the Conservatives were aware of the problem, but there was a lot that was accepted and tolerated. A report by Justice Deschamps was published, and Justice Arbour also said, why do we need another report? Because
Jordan Peterson is a violent man, according to
colleague
Canadian
and I
politicians.
Agree. I believe that there's just a lack of political will to change the culture within the armed forces. Would my colleague agree that there's a lack of will, and that's why we're still talking about this in 2024, Madam Speaker?
Colleague, for her work. We worked very, very well together in that Status of Women Committee. We were dedicated to hearing the women and the survivors that came forward, and I certainly am so grateful for her continued work for women. It is one of my concerns, of course, and I address this in my speech, that this is just a shifting of responsibilities, that there isn't a true desire to shift culture change. It's absolutely true that in 2015 with this Justice Deschamps report, moving forward through the various reports, through the various institutions, that we hear a lot of the same thing and it's not acted upon. Even Justice Arbour herself, she said that she fears that this would move into the graveyard of recommendations. So this is again one piece. There's a huge amount of work that we need to do, and listening to the victims is a huge part of that moving forward.
Comments? The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Lady Smith.
First and foremost, I want to say thank you to all those across Canada who are serving our country. And I want to acknowledge the victims of sexual trauma and assault serving in the armed forces who've not received the justice they deserve or the reassurance that things will be different for those who choose to serve after them. I'm thankful for the work of my colleague from London Fanshawe, and I want to ask my colleague about a bill that she's worked really hard on, Bill 362, that's calling to make the National Defence Ombudsperson an officer of the Parliament. Can the member please share how the bill that she put forward relates to the bill that we are talking about today?
The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Thank you so much, my honourable colleague. That specific bill is one that I did bring forward at the same time that I had brought forward the changes moving sexual assault cases from the military into the civilian system. To do it quickly, I've met oftentimes with the National Defence Ombudsperson. He and his predecessor have actually asked to become an independent.
Dude, that's crazy. It's called the Ombudsman, but they changed it to Ombudsperson.
With greater transparency, accountability, independence.
Only in Canada.
To ensure that their stories are heard, to ensure that the Ombudsman has the opportunity.
She just said an Ombudsman.
The ability to fully investigate.
They can't even commit.
In a safe and secure way, as opposed to having to go through chains of command and all the various things that are within the military system together. It's that independence that is really key, and something that I will continue to fight for in collaboration with the new Ombudsperson, who I want to congratulate today.
Can't even commit fully.
Comments? The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Island.
To calling it that crazy stuff.
I thank my honourable colleague for London Fanshawe and add my words to those ministers, thanking her for her work. And because I also worked with her mother, I'd like to thank Irene Matheson for consistent leadership on this issue of justice for women who suffered sexual violence in the course of their military service. I ask the honourable member, having studied the bill, if she believes it will be possible to make sufficient amendments in clause by clause in committee to make C-66 ready for speedy passage.
The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
I want to thank the honourable member for her question. So it's a bit of a tug and war here as well, because we want to make sure that it's moved through. I don't want any more women to find themselves in this tug of war between the two systems. It's unfair that they see their cases stayed because of it, that they have to go through that system and that back and forth. It's also one of the reasons why I think asking for consistent reviews of this legislation after it's passed need to happen, considering we are changing things back to where they once were in terms of how we investigate and deal with sexual trauma within the military. I can only say that I wish that this consultation had happened with survivors before, so that the legislation provided, slow as it was to come forward, had been done so in a better way. And more fulsome way, but it is work that we can do in committee. We have to work together. We have to get through a lot of partisanship to do it, but it's possible. I've seen it happen in Status of Women. I hope to see it in national defense.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Again, I would like to say that I will be sharing my time with the member, the honourable member from Scarborough-Guildwood. Écoutez, c'est vraiment un honneur.
It's an honor for me to rise in the House today to speak to Bill C-66. I'm honored to talk about the important work that our government is taking on to modernize the culture within our armed forces. The Canadian Armed Forces works tirelessly to defend Canadians, our quality of life, and the beautiful country we call our own. They work very hard to support Canada and also our allies and international partners. They support Canadian communities from coast to coast to coast in the case of natural disasters or other emergency situations. As the Minister said, supporting the Canadian Armed Forces is one of our main priorities.
Canada's defence, and we have their back. And for our military members to contribute their best work, it is our responsibility to ensure that they can show up every day as their true and authentic selves. Notre gouvernement s'engage.
Our government is fully committed to ensuring that armed forces members continue to trust the military justice system. We are taking targeted action within the defense team to bring about these changes in a lasting and meaningful way. The changes proposed.
Y'all didn't miss nothing, man. They're just doing their little blah 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 here
system so
before
that
QP
it
starts.
can be more transparent and so that it can better meet the needs of Canadians. These critical changes at the institutional level are just one piece of the puzzle, though. For decades now, the defense team has been dealing with the difficult experiences and realities that occur among employees and members of the military forces. There have been misconduct issues, harassment, and also sexual crimes. Since 2015, the Department of National Defence has begun to take action to prevent and find solutions to this problem. One of the main examples of measures taken was the creation of the Intervention Centre for Sexual Misconduct, which became the Support and Resources Centre. It's an organization which offers services to those who are directly and indirectly affected.
Is available to current and former defense team members as well as cadets and junior Canadian Rangers aged 16 and older and family members of the wider defense community. Other efforts put forward at this time were steps in the right direction and lay some important groundwork, but they didn't meet the need, not did they go far enough to achieve enduring change. And that's why in 2021, the department launched the Chief Professional Conduct and Culture, or CPCC, to redouble its efforts to create this lasting change. Le groupe du chef.
The Chief Professional Conduct and Culture Group, CPCC, is the sole functional authority for professional conduct and culture within national defense. The CCPC is responsible for developing policies and programs which seek to address systemic problems, also to improve tracking mechanisms for reporting misconduct, and leading efforts to develop a framework for professional conduct and culture that addresses discrimination, prejudicial behavior, bias, and systemic barriers. This organization is the focal point of our culture change efforts to guarantee that all of our institutions can move forward in a uniform and united manner. Through this work, the CCPC took time to listen to former and current members so that culture changes can match the suggestions and experiences of our members. This work led to the creation of the The publication, in fact, of the Canadian Armed Forces ethos, called Worthy to Serve, aimed at ensuring the professionalism of CAF members and respect for the dignity of all individuals in the performance of their duties. The department's work is closely linked to the CCPC's work to respond to the recommendations of 4 key external review reports related to culture change
the block.
modernization of the military justice system. These reports are the following. First, Justice Arbour's
Thanks for the $5 super chat, Robin
which
Stevens.
focuses
That's
primarily
awesome.
on the issue of
That's the
sexual
block.
harassment and misconduct.
Dude, they literally said the other day
Is
they're
the
trying to
independent review of the National
separate
Defense
from
Act
Canada.
by Justice Fish, which includes recommendations to
when we
modernize
are our
the
own
justice
country.
system. Third, the report of the Ministerial Advisory Group on Systemic
That's
Racism and
crazy
Discrimination, which is strongly aligned
say
with
that.
the priorities of the Government of Canada. And fourth, the report of the National Apology Advisory Committee, which was developed in order to make recommendations in relation to the Government of Canada's apology to the descendants of the No. 2 Construction Battalion. We have already made significant progress on a number of these recommendations, including taking steps to implement Justice Arbour's recommendation on how to define and discuss sexual offenses in our policies, as well as repealing the duty to report in order to prioritize trust and safety, as well as to respect the choices of victims, survivors, and all those affected. Another recommendation we're acting on is launching the Canadian Military Colleges Review Board to assess the quality of education, socialization, and training at our 2 military colleges. And we are publishing a new digital grievance form that gives members of the armed forces the ability to access services quicker and more effectively.
To prioritize and sequence work across the defense team in a coordinated and collective efforts to implement the remaining recommendations from all 4 reports. Madam Speaker, as the CPCC consulted with current and former defense team members from across the country, a common theme emerged: the need for the continuing evolution of the military justice system in response to development in law and society, and to maintain trust in the system. Through Bill C-66, we are introducing reform to the National Defense Act, addressing key recommendations from the former Supreme Court Justices Arbour and Fish reports. This includes Madame Arbour's 5th recommendation, as well as 8 recommendations from Justice Fish's 3rd independent review of the National
Fish turd?
designed to, among other things,
Did I hear that right? Fish turd?
in the military justice system, and to help remove real or perceived influence from the Canadian Armed Forces chain of command. Most notably, through Bill C-66, criminal code sexual offenses that take place in Canada will be under the exclusive jurisdiction of civilian authorities. Grâce au projet de loi C-66, les infractions sexuelles au code criminel commises au Canada
Oh shit, look at that.
la compétence
Got a couple more super chats.
exclusive des autorités civiles. Le projet de loi
dit qu'il n'y a pas de traduction, d'interprétation.
I'm being told that there was no interpretation.
There wasn't.
Interpretation working now. The
We wish it wasn't.
Honorable Parliamentary Secretary.
Drayden with the $5 super chat. I saw in Canada Proud that the provincial Quebec government is pressuring the Bloc to vote on non-confidence. They are certainly trying to do that. They are certainly trying to pressure the Bloc to vote non-confidence. But the vote happened yesterday, right after question period. And everyone who you would think voted against the vote of non-confidence voted against the vote of non-confidence. So there is no vote of non-confidence anymore. But Pierre is free to do that as many times as he wants.
On behalf of a victim with access to a victim's liaison officer.
Nate Moore, welcome to the Canadian, eh? Thanks for the membership. I appreciate that.
Madam Speaker, the well-being of members of our armed forces is one of our top priorities. They work tirelessly to defend us, the country, and our
Gaming
partners
Fireball, you are not late
around
for
the
question
world.
period.
It is our
Statements by
duty
members is about to begin.
ensure that they can work in an environment free of all discrimination, harassment, and misconduct. Our government has committed to changing the culture within our armed forces so that each and every one of our defense teams and their members can feel included, can be authentic and can be encouraged.
Yeah, so they're going to do, they did a vote in non-confidence. He called for it yesterday. They voted on it. It didn't go through. They're going to do it again next week. Pierre is free to do it as many times. He can do it anytime he wants in Parliament. He can do it every day. He can do it every day. It costs no money. They just stay in Parliament and they go around and they vote. It's just time consuming. That's all it is.
And on this particular bill, I really hope that this House will find strong resolution fast to bring it to committee. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
L'honorable secrétaire.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary will have 5 minutes remaining for questions and answers. After.
Hey, folks, if you haven't yet already,
the next time this bill is.
I'd appreciate if you guys smash that like button.
The honourable member for Ottawa.
Let's see if we can get a couple thousand people in here before QP starts.
Recognize the Centertown Citizens Ottawa Corporation, also known as CCOC, as they celebrate a phenomenal milestone: 50 years of transforming lives and building communities. CCOC owns and manages over 50 properties that provide nearly 1,600 affordable homes, primarily in the heart of Ottawa Centre. Their mission is to foster diverse, inclusive, and sustainable communities for individuals of low and modest income. It has been an honor, Speaker, for me to work with them on many projects like the Beaver Barracks community. This summer, we announced a $12 million investment with CCOC that will help them retrofit and repair 1,200 homes. That's 75% of their total housing stock. This isn't just about an investment in bricks and mortar. It's an investment in people, in community, pride, and the future of our city. I congratulate them for all their hard work in building our community for everyone. Thank you.
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
This summer, the people of Jasper faced a devastating tragedy.
Keep my name out your mouth. Oh, the community.
Lives. But in the face of this disaster,
that makes sense.
We witnessed the extraordinary strength of the people of Jasper. We saw an incredible response from nearby communities coming together to support evacuees and relief efforts. Volunteers and first responders risking their own lives showed remarkable courage to protect what they could and support those in need. We owe a deep debt of gratitude to all who risked their lives, especially Morgan Kitchen, a young firefighter who made the ultimate sacrifice just weeks after his 24th birthday. The bravery of all who faced the flames will never be forgotten. The road to recovery is long, but the spirit of Jasper is stronger. Together, we will rebuild, and together, we will heal.
The
honourable member for Fredericton.
Yesterday, on September 18th, the Canadian Medical Association apologized for its role and the role of the medical profession in the past and ongoing harms to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples in the health system. This apology was delivered at a public ceremony in Victoria, BC, on the traditional unceded territory of the Songhees and Cossapsum nations. In preparation for this apology, the CMA underwent a multi-year process to review its archives, social media accounts, parliamentary debates, and committee records. An ethics review on these records was completed that outlined the ethical and professional commitments and responsibilities of the medical profession. The CMA acknowledges that harm to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples continue.
Daryl Hart, thank you for joining the membership program. I really appreciate that, man. That's awesome.
Promote Indigenous.
Drayden with the $5 super chat. MSB, you got to team up with Northern Perspective. They have great coverage on what's up in committee meetings. Yeah, no, they definitely do good. I think they're here in the gallery. They're up in the gallery, if I'm not mistaken. I thought they were in Ottawa this week. I've never actually talked to them, but just based off of what they post. But yeah, I'd definitely be open to talk to them.
The honourable member for Drummond. Madam Speaker.
Someone make it happen.
It's the 100th anniversary of
Mistersunshinebaby would be open to talking to Northern Perspective.
Such an important
Someone take that, send it to them, make it happen.
And other authors. But no, for years now, the industry has been pressuring the government with a simple proposition, but nothing has moved. Yet, it could increase the cultural sector by $10,000 a month. Copyright industries don't understand why a deaf ear has been being turned to their requests. Our artists, writers, cinematographers, and authors all don't understand why our culture is slowly being condemned to disappear quietly. And maybe it's not too late. we need to update the Act, and happy 100th anniversary.
Honourable member from Brampton East.
Mr. Speaker, today I want to take a moment to recognize the remarkable achievements of our athletes from the Summer Paris 2024 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Nice. We have won an astounding 27 Olympic medals this year, making the Paris 2024 Games our best performing Olympics in history. This could not have been possible without the incredible efforts of our amazing athletes.
Question period's about to start, folks.
They have not only elevated our national spirit, but have also showcased the exceptional talent emerging from all corners of our country. Let's also recognize the incredible Paralympians who have represented Canada with immense skill, bringing home 29 medals. Your hard work, determination, and excellence have continuously inspired us and represented Canadian excellence on the global stage. Mr. Speaker, a big congratulations to all of our Team Canada athletes on a historic Olympic season. You've inspired millions of Canadians across our country, coast to coast to coast.
Eric says, create an online grassroots network between you, the pleb,
From Central Okanagan.
Northern Perspective, and Clyde.
Mr. Speaker, imagine living in a rural community.
What if I told you I've tried and it didn't work? It's all good. Everyone stays in their lane. Everyone does their own thing. And sometimes you see some cross-pollination, but
massive floods. The Prime Minister told
that is what it is, folks.
Their backs. Ministers visit, telling them to hang tight for their new disaster mitigation and adaptation fund. The municipalities apply, jump through every hoop, spending hundreds of thousands in engineering studies only to be denied. Adding insult to the injury, communities that never experience flooding or fires are receiving funds, while Merritt and Princeton are left behind. Every member here should know that the people in these communities are angry at these broken commitments. It's gotten so bad that Merritt has created an e-petition calling on the government to honor its promises. I encourage all
just get Pierre to see the channel.
Petition.
Pierre watches this channel apparently.
If being Canadian means
they watch it on the House floor.
After one another, I remind the Prime Minister it's never too late to do the right thing for Merritt and for Princeton.
The honourable member from Kitchener South, Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight the invaluable contributions of orthotic and prosthetic professionals to the health and well-being of Canadians. These dedicated certified orthotists and prosthetists and registered orthotic and prosthetic technicians help individuals regain mobility and lead active lives. Through their expertise, they enhance the quality of life for countless Canadians, including those in my riding of Kitchener South Hespeler, and strengthen our communities and healthcare system. This year, we will celebrate the first ever National Orthotics and Prosthetics Day on September the 19th, 2024. This day will highlight and promote their essential services and the individuals who benefit from their care. By commemorating this day, we aim to build stronger partnerships and a more collaborative support network for orthotic and prosthetic professionals and their patients across Canada.
All right, we're about to start here, folks. Make sure you smash that like button.
Mr. Speaker, this month the Yukon lost one of its most accomplished and best-loved citizens, Rolf Hogan. If you walk around downtown Whitehorse, you will see Rolf's impact everywhere in the variety of businesses he built over the 80 years that he lived in the Yukon. He also founded the territory's first cable TV company, as well as its first commercial radio station, CKRW. Among many other philanthropic activities, Rolf established the Yukon Foundation in 1980, opening doors for numerous Yukoners to pursue their education and research. Rolf's generosity touched the arts too, donating space in the Hogan Centre to support local artists. He was also one of the founders of the Yukon Sourdough Rendezvous, evolving from the winter carnivals he started in the 1940s. A passionate photographer and historian, Rolf captured the essence of his family, his businesses, and our territory with great care. Rolf Hogan was the Yukon's nation builder, and his legacy will continue to inspire us. As Yukoners reflect on his passing, let's hold on to Rolf's spirit of connection, his commitment to the community, and his boundless kindness.
The honourable member from Barrie Springwater, Oro-Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of the NDP-Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up.
Time is up.
Time is up. Liberal government's elimination of mandatory prison time for countless violent offences. Criminals are given free rein to terrorize our communities. The results of this Liberal government's soft-on-crime policies are clear. Canadians don't even feel safe walking down their streets or taking transit. A new study by the Macdonald-Laurier Institute shows that sexual assaults and robberies such as muggings and carjackings are up in practically every major city in Canada. Between 2016 and 2023, the sexual assault rate has almost doubled in York region, and sexual assaults are up by more than 30% in the neighboring Peel region.
Unbelievable.
Conservatives will ensure that repeat violent offenders remain behind bars while awaiting trial, and we will bring back mandatory jail time for serious violent crimes that were repealed by this Liberal government. A Conservative government will bring home safe streets.
Hear, hear. The honourable member from Toronto Danforth.
I rise today in the memory of Louis March. I first had the opportunity to meet Louis March when he came to my office with a mother who had lost her son to gun violence. He was always there to support
Was it a criminal?
in need, but also to empower the voices of people who had been impacted by gun violence.
Dude, man, I feel so sorry for anyone who's impacted by that.
Committed advocate,
But you can't go after law-abiding gun owners. They are not the ones that are committing those crimes.
And always support the needs of the communities who were trying to fight gun violence in our city. And he was effective. So I would like to take this moment to recognize all of the great work that was done by Louis March. May his memory be a blessing, and may we all stand and recommit to ending gun violence in our communities.
Yeah, let's go after criminals.
The honourable member from Cypress Hills Grasslands.
After 9 years of this NDP-Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime's up, and time's up. The Prime Minister wants to quadruple the carbon tax, but to appease his new unelected finance minister, Mark Carbon Tax Carney, he's implementing a second carbon tax that will cost Canadians $9 billion on top of the already $25 billion that the carbon tax is costing. Costs are also up due to the carbon tax addiction and government corruption. Carbon Tax Carney stands to benefit moments after his new appointment from the latest government announcement, a $10 billion handout to his firm Brookfield that will further line his pockets with taxpayer money. And it doesn't stop there. Carbon Tax Carney is part of Telesat, which just got over $2 billion to build broadband access that the private sector...
Trudeau should be there today, yeah.
...the cost. But thankfully, Mr. Speaker, time is up. With Liberal scandals passing each day, Canadians are beyond tired of...
Let's go, folks. If you haven't yet already, smash that like button, huh?
Change the NDP-Liberal government with one that'll axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
The honourable member from Stormont Douglas, South Glengarry.
After 9 years of the NDP Liberals, taxes up, costs up, crime's up, and time's up. And that could not be more true than for the leader of the NDP. His video a couple weeks ago saying that he ripped up his coalition agreement and then saying that Canadians are fed up with his Prime Minister, it all proved to be nothing more than a stunt. Because minutes ago, the NDP said they will vote to continue to have confidence in this Prime Minister next week when the question is called here on the floor of the House of Commons. He said and refused 49 times to say how he'd vote, and now we know why. That the coalition between the Liberals and the NDP is alive and well. Canadians have been sold out by the NDP. And what it should be simple. We should call a carbon tax election for Canadians to have their say, because they do not want to see the carbon tax quadruple
simple, stupid.
61 cents a litre. The NDP have sold out Canadians. In the next election, they're going to boot many of their MPs back out of this House of Commons.
Dude, if there are any left, they all keep resigning.
The honourable member from Chateau...
The honourable member for Chateauguay-Lacal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's so motivating to be back in the House and to be able to continue our work for the wonderful citizens of Chateauguay-Lacal and soon Chateauguay des Jardins de Naperville. We were able to deliver programs to make our life more affordable for fellow Canadians. And over the summer, I saw firsthand in my riding how our action plan is delivering results and making life easier for hundreds of households. In particular, I had the opportunity to visit the Solid organization, the largest landowner in Chateauguay. This organization buys and renovates apartment buildings and rents them out at affordable prices. This model can and should be replicated across Canada. Solid has just received over $3 million from the Affordable Housing Fund to renovate and maintain its buildings. I would like to congratulate the entire Solid team for their excellent work. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, we're about to begin.
The honourable member from Victoria.
Whoa.
Speaker, I want to highlight the amazing work of the Mobile Youth Services Team, or MIST, and in particular their crime reduction and exploitation diversion program. They've been serving at-risk youth in our region for over 20 years.
All right, folks. All right. Get yourself a coffee. Get yourself situated. We're about to start here.
Intersecting crises of the toxic drug supply, mental health issues, poverty, and homelessness. They have an extremely effective program.
Since yesterday, Justin Trudeau has announced that he's cutting more immigration. Pablo Rodriguez, longtime Liberal MP, has resigned. So we're going into this, and there's some ammunition to use.
Handling over 250 active cases.
Don't think it's going to be all boring.
We know the frequency of youth being targets by sexual predators and for gang recruitment has been increasing, and calls
Guinness is poured, Canadian abroad.
They have applied to the Department of
Very
Justice
good.
because despite the high demand, they recently had to reduce the hours of their program to only 2 days a week. Without new funding, they face the prospect of closing as early as March 2025. MIST teams have an incredible impact, and this model could be replicated across the country. The loss of this program would be devastating given the need in our community.
Here we go.
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member. It's very important for all members, please, to try to respect the 60 seconds.
He's not sorry at all.
Leeway on that.
Okay, here we go.
Not a significant.
Here we go. Let me say it.
For Beauport,
I want to say it. I want to do it.
Mr. Speaker.
You see Pierre walk in?
7-3s, they say.
Pierre's there.
This is true because the Quebec.
He's got all his notes, his briefcase. He's ready to go.
The Frontier League Championship for the third year in a row. And what a game it was for fans on Saturday. During an astonishing play, the Quebec Capitals, who were down 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning against the Washington Wild Things, thanks to Anthony Quinn, hit a 3-point home run. This is the 10th title in the team's history, and it helps to celebrate their 25th anniversary this year. This is thanks to all of the talent and hard work of the players and the entire organization, including their manager, Patrick.
All right, come on. 60 seconds is up. Let's go.
Michel Laplante. Congratulations, and thanks again for making the whole town so proud. See you again next year. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable.
Come on, dude. Let's see Pierre talk.
Wasteful and divisive Liberal government in recent history. It's the Liberal government that doesn't respect the provinces by imposing programs that the occupant of the big chair as Prime Minister knows and can do better than the elected representatives of Quebec and the provinces. It's a government that breaks the rules without taking responsibility for the consequences and calls a Canadian citizen a terrorist. What is the Bloc Liberal Coalition? It's the Bloc that has voted to keep this minority government in place 180 times. It's the Bloc that has authorized this Liberal government to spend $500 billion creating inflation and raising the cost of everything. It's the Bloc that supports the Liberal government's radical plan to hike gas taxes, ban hunting weapons, and allow house arrest for violent criminals. It's the Bloc that will profess its faith in this Liberal government again next week, proclaiming its confidence in this Prime Minister going against the interest of Quebecers. The Bloc is the worst negotiator Quebec has ever known. That's what the Bloc Liberal Coalition is.
Here we go.
The honourable member from Windsor.
Mr. Speaker, today I had the honour of hosting the second Young Polonia Leadership Summit on Parliament Hill.
I'm getting blue-balled here by the House Speaker.
5 young leaders from across Canada to talk about issues important to Polish Canadians, including getting more young people engaged in politics. Over 1 million Polish Canadians contribute to building vibrant and generous communities across Canada. And now we see a new generation of Polonia taking the mantle to lead the Polish diaspora in this new century. Young people who say, yes, we can, and who have the courage and the power to build a better
Greg is trolling, yeah.
I want to thank the Canadian
Holy shit, man.
The Polish Canadian Business and Professional Association.
You know Greg Fergus watches this channel because he does the opposite intro how I do it.
This summit.
And he does it on purpose. He's the only guy to ever do it that way.
Young Eagles. Thank you. Good
job. I stay true to the real way of doing it. Here we go. Oral questions. Questions. Honourable Leader of the Opposition, soon to be next Prime Minister, Canada, Pierre Poilievre.
Mr. Speaker.
Anticlimactic.
The Premier of the Quebec nation said today that the Liberal government's decision to double the number of temporary immigrants, bringing it to 600,000, will imperil social services for Quebecers. Will the leader of the Bloc Québécois listen to what the Premier of the Quebec nation is asking? Who is asking that the Bloc Québécois not support the Liberal government next week, and that they support the interests of Quebec and the Quebec nation.
Yeah. No one voted for a Quebec Liberal
The Honourable Minister of Public Services
government.
And Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to say that, like you, I used to be a page in the House of Commons, and I'd like to thank and welcome the new cohort of pages. We know that their responsibilities and services are extremely important. Thank you for being here with us. Now, it's laughable what the leader of the opposition is saying. He's saying that we should cut, and cut to help Quebecers, including in healthcare, childcare, and so on. Thank you. Before moving on to the next question, I'd like to remind all members that it's important that questions have to do with questions of this government's administration in order to address issues of
Here he goes.
responsibility here
On the first one, he's already power tripping.
It's not just the Premier of the Quebec nation, but also the PQ in Quebec that is condemning this centralizing, expensive government. He said that this government voluntarily destabilized Quebec, and that's an abuse of power by the federal government. The Bloc Québécois is propping up a party that is abusing Quebec, according to the PQ. Why has the leader of the Bloc Québécois abandoned the Parti Québécois and all Quebecers to keep the most centralizing prime minister in history in power?
Trudeau's not there, eh? He's out getting cheese. Trudeau's at the factory getting cheese.
This is a matter that has nothing to do with the federal government. That said, I see that the Minister of Canadian Heritage is rising. The Honourable Minister. We know that the last time that Premier Legault decided to become an ally of the Conservatives, we know that Quebecers had their say about that. They didn't like it at all. And we know that Mr. Legault and the leader of the Parti Québécois want to destroy an incredibly important institution for Francophones in Quebec. I'm talking about Radio Canada. We will always fight for our culture and for Quebecers.
Always fight for cheese.
Monsieur le Président.
Another French one.
Unfortunately, the Prime Minister has lost his Quebec lieutenant.
Yeah. Pablo Rodriguez.
At the provincial level. But luckily, he's found another Quebec lieutenant. That's the leader of the Bloc Québécois.
Holy shit.
Who will be voting to increase spending by $500 billion in inflationary spending. He's voting to increase the size of the public service. He's voting in favor of a government that has broken the immigration system. In fact, it is the Conservatives who are the real defenders of Quebec.
We all knew that the NDP leader had sold out the people and signed on to a costly coalition with this carbon tax prime minister to tax people's food, punish their work, double their housing costs, and unleash crime in their communities. But he claimed that he had torn up the carbon tax coalition so that Winnipeggers would not fire him in a by-election. But as soon as the votes were counted, he betrayed them too and taped back together this carbon tax coalition. How can anyone ever believe what he says again?
Yeah, Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. It's a good one for Pierre.
There's in a very uncomfortable situation here. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The NDP leader was terrified he was going to lose a by-election in Winnipeg, a NDP stronghold. So he put out a Hollywood production where he claimed he had torn up the carbon tax coalition onto which he had signed up, that he was going to stop fighting for his pension and start fighting for the people. But once the votes were counted, betrayed them again. He is a fake, a phony, and a fraud. How can anyone ever believe what this sellout NDP leader says in the future?
Wow! And he's gonna mute the mic! Come on, man! Come on! We pay our taxes. We deserve to hear what the hell's going on. He's gonna say it's unparliamentary because you can't say fake and phony, you can't name call. And then he's gonna get up and call him a wacko, I betcha. Pierre's down in the corner, and Andrew Scheer on the bottom right, the Conservative MPs there, they're looking further down the Liberal side possibly, and they're arguing with visible frustration.
Colleagues.
Come on! Dude, I am this close to doing a petition. You motherfucker! He did it again! You son of a bitch! Is the video muted? I thought it was paused. No, I thought it was a statue. I thought it lagged out. He's just standing there. This is a video. Look at him. It's running video. Stone face, stone cold Greg Fergus. What the hell is happening? I am sorry to everyone who's using headphones. I'm sorry. You should know not to use headphones when I'm streaming. Fuck, it's frustrating. I don't like to swear. I try to keep it PG. It's politics. It's politics. I never know who's watching. But fuck. For crying out loud, man. Are you kidding me? Put some L's down. Put some L's down for Greg Fergus. This is absolutely an abuse of power. I gotta calm down, dude. Holy shit, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for yelling. I'm wearing headphones. How loud am I? Hello? Yeah, I'm pretty loud. Sorry. Okay. Bring it. Testing. Okay. So, sorry for yelling, folks. I got these headphones on in my basement. I gotta get out of control. Greg Fergus has constantly abused that microphone mute button. And he needs to face some sort of repercussions for doing so.
Colleagues, there are some long-standing traditions of this House which we should endeavor to respect. It is important that we ask questions in question period to make government accountable to the people of Canada. The questions, by their very nature, should be pointed, should be tough, should be specific, and the answers should also be clear. But colleagues, for this to work, we also have to make sure that we work within the rules that we have. There were some important questions which were asked, but were not related to the administration of the government. And therefore, there weren't responses to that. And it is important to make sure that we do that. We have so many other tools available to us as members to make the comments that we need to make outside of question period, to comment about how we want to do. Now, while the microphone was off, there were, I would suspect, although the chair didn't hear that, there might have been some strong words which were exchanged between members.
Yeah, fuck you, Greg.
Ask members to please remember that Canadians are looking at us.
Hell yeah, and the majority of them looking at this fucking stream.
Really befitting of each of our constituencies and the country as a whole. So.
Fuck you, Greg! Trying to gaslight people, bro?
So with that in mind, let's move on to the next question. The honourable member.
Suck 1,000 dicks. Are you kidding me?
I'd like to thank the people of La Salle.
That's so stupid, man. I hate how that happens.
Their trust in the Bloc Québécois. Let's be honest. The Bloc Québécois hasn't been in such a good position for more than 15 years. If our priority was our own party, we'd already been in an election campaign. But our priority is the well-being of Quebecers, and Quebecers are worried about seniors' living conditions. That is why we're asking the Liberals to stop discriminating financially against people between 65 and 74. Will they finally raise old age security?
Oh, sorry. Oh, my intrusive thoughts just took over. Oh, my God.
The Honourable Government House Leader. I'd like to thank my colleague in the Bloc Québécois for asking a real question in this House. It is very important that we pose questions that have to do with this government's work. This government is here to work for Canadians. And we are here to demonstrate every day what we are doing for Canadians. I would like all members in this House to bear that in mind. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. The Liberals need to understand something very simple.
This is so stupid.
They both have a price. Either they raise OAS by 10% for 65 to 74-year-olds, or they will pay the price at the ballot box. Liberals will have to choose, and the other parties as well. If you think that old age security is not important, well, try saying it to their face. The Liberals will pay the price one way or another. Are they going to raise OAS by 10%? Yes or no?
L'honorable ministre du Travail et des Aînés.
The Honourable Minister of Labour and Seniors. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to welcome the member for La Prairie to assistance for seniors, because in the past he had not assisted or supported Canadian seniors and services for them. In fact, he voted against lowering the age of retirement to 65, and he voted against increasing the guaranteed income supplement for the poorest Quebecers. And when we implemented a dental plan, what did
this shit's so corrupt,
do?
man.
He voted against it.
I'm freaking triggered.
South.
The Canadian Medical Association is
corrupt bastard
about privatization.
Corrupt bastard.
Cuts. Canadians.
Corrupt bastard.
Excuse
I'll say that to your face, Jagmeet.
I'm having some difficulty hearing.
You gonna give me your Rolex collection if you fucking touch me?
The House. Can I?
Holy crap, man!
Who do not have the floor to not speak? I'm going to invite the honourable member from Burnaby South to start from the top, please.
The Canadian Medical Association is worried about privatization in our healthcare system. They're worried about the real impacts of a dangerous shortage of frontline healthcare workers, family medicine, family healthcare workers. They're worried about specialist shortages, nurse shortages. The Conservatives want to make people pay to receive healthcare, and the Liberals are too weak to stop them. Why the Liberals letting Conservatives force people to pay out of pocket to receive healthcare?
Here, here.
Again, I'm just going to ask members, please, not to take the floor unless they are recognized by the Speaker to do so. I know some members would like me to make a more specific intervention. Unfortunately,
nobody wants you to do that.
Making that intervention, but I will ask members, please, to not speak when they are not recognized. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And working together, we've been able to make incredible progress in our health system.
Is someone saying, is Jagmeet drunk?
Territory based on cooperation, $200 billion. And with the NDP, when they were interested in working with us, we were able to do things like dental care with 6,000 people already getting care. We're able to do things like pharmacare. But unfortunately, the NDP has made a choice. They've decided to give in to a bully who's using playbook that comes from a movie like Mean Girls, rather than stand up and fight for our healthcare system and work collaboratively, Mr.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Medicare, Liberals and Conservatives are tearing it down. Les libéraux
Liberals promised.
He might be drunk.
In Quebec. With the
He's drunk. People are saying he's drunk. Holy shit.
Quebecers aren't getting anything because the Liberals and the Legault government are too busy fighting between themselves. Is the Prime Minister going to stop dragging his feet and finally deliver the assistance to Quebecers?
L'honorable ministre de la Santé.
The Honourable
Becca with the $5.
Continue the work on pharmacare? No. Did they choose to continue the progress on dental? No. Did they choose to make progress on working with provinces and territories in a spirit of collaboration? No. Instead, they yielded to a bully. They abdicated the field. They got afraid. They walked away. Well, we're not afraid, Mr.
Oh, shut up.
Stand up and we're going to fight for public health care in this country.
Bro, you're wearing a bow tie.
We're going to deliver dental.
Come on.
We're going to deliver diet.
Go read the dictionary.
We're going to make sure that every woman has access to contraceptives and nothing is going to stop us.
A man wearing a bow tie saying we're fighting for tampons. Come on, dude.
The honourable member from Regina. The honourable member from Regina Capel.
After 9 years of this NDP-Liberal government, taxes are up, prices are up, crime's up, time's up. And
there you go.
The NDP leader has sold out workers by devaluing their paycheck by supporting Liberal inflationary deficits. He sold out seniors and families by hiking the carbon tax, driving up the cost of food and home heating. And he has sold out young Canadians who have given up on the dream of home ownership thanks to the doubling of housing costs. And what did he sell them out for? To protect his pension. Now Canadians have to suffer longer just so he can get paid. So why doesn't the Prime Minister just call a carbon tax election so Canadians can decide?
The honourable leader of the government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't think we should be politicizing pensions, but if the member opposite or his leader wants to talk about the size of their pensions, then they should talk about that, because at a time when they are getting millions of dollars or will be getting millions of dollars in government pensions, they also look to cut the pensions of everyday Canadians. Wow. Mr. Speaker, we are here to support seniors no matter where they work, not just parliamentarians with their pensions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
It's Canadian seniors who are cutting back because of this government's cost of living crisis. They're cutting back on food and home heating because of the carbon tax and inflation that this government caused. But let's go back to the NDP leader. He had a really dramatic show this summer where he pretended to rip up the agreement, but then would never commit to actually voting non-confidence and giving Canadians the carbon tax election they so desperately want. It was all just a show. So simple question, during all those meetings with the Prime Minister and the leader of the NDP, was the Prime Minister just giving him acting lessons?
Honourable Minister of Labour and for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, it's very interesting to hear my friend from Regina Capel, who was around in those days. In fact, he was sitting right where you're sitting, Mr. Speaker, when Prime Minister Harper went to Davos. Yes, Davos. For a reminder for some of you in the back, that's the World Economic Forum. And he went there to do what? To tell Canadian seniors that their retirement age was moving to 67 from 65. How dare the member from Regina Capel stand in this House and talk to us about pensions, Mr. Speaker?
I didn't know that.
This is what saving the furniture looks like. I could have sworn that yesterday was Wednesday.
Yeah, man.
Remember,
Wednesday's supposed to be the day. This is crazy.
9 years of the NDP Liberals. Taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. And the Liberals and the NDP believe in quadrupling the carbon taxes to 61 cents a litre. And this is at a time when 2 million Canadians a month are going to food banks. Seniors are turning down their heat, and people are living in RVs in truck stops. Canadians cannot afford this costly coalition. When will the Canadians have a carbon tax election so they can decide between the costly NDP Liberal coalition and common sense Conservatives?
Yeah.
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It would be nice in this House if people actually used facts. At the end of the day, a price on pollution is actually an affordability mechanism. To get rid of the carbon rebate will actually be making people who live on modest incomes poorer. At the same time, it will be imperiling the future of our children, abandoning them to a future where we have runaway climate change. It is so ridiculous after 300 economists...
Our taxes haven't solved any forest fires or floods.
...refuses to talk to any one of them that they can get up and make up these fairy tales.
How many years until we have no more forest fires and floods?
It's not a fairy tale that people can't afford to feed themselves in Canada, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, man.
NDP leader
cost of living
24 times for the carbon tax, and the NDP talk a big talk, but they cannot be trusted to do what's best for Canadian families. The NDP Liberals tax your food, punish your work, take your money, double your housing costs, and unleash crime and drugs in your communities. Common sense Conservatives will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Time is up. When will we have a carbon tax election so Canadians can choose their future?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and for Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Setting aside the fact that both the Parliamentary Budget Officer and 300 economists have said that 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money than they pay to carbon pricing, we have a report today that from the independent organization, the Climate Institute, which shows that emissions are down again in Canada, Mr.
Oh, come on, Harry pot smoker. Go climb the CN Tower, buddy.
The report also shows that without our plan, emissions would be 41% higher. That's the non-plan from the Conservative Party of Canada. That's the equivalent in terms of pollution of adding 60 million vehicles on our road, Mr. Speaker. That's what we're talking about here.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member from Kenora.
After 9 years of this NDP-Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and now, Mr. Speaker, their time is up. They have ballooned costs and driven up taxes to the point that people are struggling to feed, heat, and house themselves. And it's why Canadians deserve a carbon tax election, where they would be able to choose between our common sense plan to axe the tax or the NDP-Liberal plan to quadruple the tax. So, Mr. Speaker, why are the NDP continuing to sell out Canadians and support this Liberal government?
The Honourable Minister for Families and Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity that the Conservatives have given me to speak about what's up. Do you know what's up, Mr. Speaker? The number of
crime, taxes,
available
unaffordability
across this country.
People unaliving themselves.
Speaker, women's
How much time you got?
participation in the workforce is at an all-time high. Because of our investments in the early childhood educator workforce, we've also seen that wages have gone up for this workforce, Mr. Speaker. And one more thing, Canada Child Benefit was raised in the summer, going up.
The Honourable Member for Kenora.
Mr. Speaker, that is cold comfort to the people struggling to fill their gas tanks, put food on the table, and afford simple, basic necessities. But we know the NDP will only pretend to stand up for Canadians if they can be assured that they have the backing of the bloc to keep this tired and corrupt government in power. 24 times, in fact, the NDP voted in favour of the carbon tax while Canadians are struggling just to get by. So once again, this is why we need a carbon tax election, so that Canadians can choose between our plan or the NDP Liberal plan. Why are they so afraid to give Canadians a choice at the ballot box?
There you go, man. W's, let's go.
Some voices are more distinct than others.
We know Drunk Jagmeet's watching. We know Liberals are watching, and Trudeau's at the cheese factory watching. Give some W's down for that Conservative MP so they can all see.
And that question...
What are you going to do, mute the mic? You're going to mute the mic?
The Honourable.
Do your job, Fergus.
Let's remember that seniors are listening. They've had enough of these evasive answers. It's time to make a decision. All year, I've been going to meet seniors throughout Quebec. They all agree that Liberals should increase old age security for people between 65 and 74, just as they did for people 75 and over. This is urgent. We cannot create two classes of seniors. Will the Liberals finally put an end to this system and increase OAS by 10% from 65 years of age. The Honourable Minister of Labour and Seniors. Mr. Speaker, I know that the Bloc Québécois don't like to hear this, but votes and other actions have consequences. The Bloc Québécois voted against the dental care program, the National Dental Care Program, which now exists in my colleague's riding, her own riding. I went there with my colleague recently, and I met one of my colleague's constituents out of the 14,000 constituents who now receive dental care in her riding. And this person expressed their gratitude, but my colleague voted against that. The Honourable Member for Shefford. The Liberals have a choice. Either they put an end to this two-tier system for seniors, or they are going to have to go to the ballot box to maintain their system. We in the Bloc Québécois have opted for justice and fairness. It's time for the Liberals to make a choice. They can put an end to this age-based discrimination, or they can keep trying to promote this unjustifiable discrimination at the ballot box. What are they going to choose? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, my colleague is raising the specter of an election instead of taking concrete action like voting for assistance to Canadian seniors. She has not tried to help Quebec seniors ever since she's been here. She's voted against an increase in the guaranteed income supplement. She voted against the dental care plan that is helping 14,000 people in her own riding.
Costing taxpayers billions of dollars.
Seniors. But it is the Liberal government that is actually taking action to help our seniors.
Hey, folks, if you haven't yet already, I'd appreciate it if you guys smash that like button so we can get some more people in here, and subscribe.
I know
it's absolutely free to do so. It helps fight climate change.
I would invite members not to...
Rumor has it helps fight climate change.
The floor. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Not only are the Liberals discriminating against seniors, but they are also making cuts to organizations that are trying to support seniors. For example, they've been making cuts to the Aging Well at Home initiative because they don't want to sign an agreement with Quebec. Once again, a cynical attempt to interfere with Quebec's jurisdiction, and seniors are suffering for it. In fact, Quebec's Intergovernmental Affairs Minister said that it's disgusting. That's what the minister said, not me. That is disgusting. When will the Liberals make an agreement with Quebec and stop taking seniors hostage? The Honourable Minister. We have a very important pilot project to help seniors age at home. And there are some excellent projects, like at the Chambly community organization, which has a program to broaden the scope of services with more and more volunteers to help seniors who are in a vulnerable position or living in a rural milieu. The government of Quebec is blocking that. My colleague should address his question to the government of Quebec that is blocking the money.
Member from Regina Leuven.
After 9 years of this costly coalition, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up.
Time is up.
The NDP-Liberal government's reckless policies have forced 2 million people to food banks. Their destructive carbon tax has made it almost impossible for our farmers to make affordable food to put on the tables of Canadians. Canadians want and deserve a carbon tax election. They can decide between the costly coalition or a common-sense conservative government that will axe the tax, build the home, fix the budget, and stop the crime. The question is, when will this lame duck Prime Minister call carbon tax elections so Canadians can have their say?
He's going to mute the mic, unparliamentary. You can't call him a lame duck, even though I agree with it.
My members to ensure to be careful about making comments about specific members of Parliament.
Come on, bro.
An Attorney General.
Let's review the facts for a moment about the carbon price.
The carbon price reduces pollution and puts money back into the pockets of Canadians. In fact, 8 out of 10 families receive more money back than they pay with an increasing price on pollution. It is the single best market mechanism known to reduce carbon footprints. We used to have a lot of parties in this chamber supporting that price. Unfortunately, we've seen a flip in terms of position by virtue of the leader of the NDP's position. What that does is it signals voter cynicism, but it also signals to progressives, including in my riding of Parkdale High Park, that if you want a party that's going to fight against climate change, your only choice is the Liberal Party of Canada.
How many years so we don't have any more floods and wildfires? When are the taxes going to fix it?
From Regina Leuven.
When a single mother's decided to put milk in the fridge or gas in the car for their children, that answer is going to give them no comfort this winter, Mr. Speaker. The NDP has sold out Canadians for what, Mr. Speaker? It's time to know the truth. Will the NDP stand with Canadians and make sure that there is a carbon tax election that they want? Or is it true, Mr. Speaker, does the leader of the NDP care more about his pension than what Canadians want?
I mean,
a very unusual day.
It is, bro. This is supposed to be Wednesday. What's going on?
Years of the NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up.
Conservatives are bringing the heat.
The NDP
I'm here for it.
Sold out workers by voting to increase the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. In fact, he voted for the carbon tax 24 times. We know the NDP leader is keeping the Prime Minister in power to secure his own pension. So will the Prime Minister listen to Canadians and call a carbon tax election?
There you go. Put some W's, man. Put some W's down in the chat, huh? We know we got some MPs on the floor watching.
Provide members with as much leeway as possible, knowing that some questions come around and end up being...
Shut up, Greg Fergus.
If I could ask members, please.
If I could ask you kindly to shut up.
Seek accountability from the government. It's important to then... It's important
accountability!
Which are germane to the administration of the government, as opposed to questions which are more...
This guy's hitting the mute button like he's Michael J. Fox. Come on!
Question period here because it doesn't relevant to the administration of government. The honourable member from Vancouver, Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals just appointed Mark Carney, a millionaire investment banker from Goldman Sachs, to dictate their economic agenda. The Conservatives have lobbyists from Loblaws and Walmart sitting on their front bench and setting policy. New Democrats are listening to working Canadians who are experiencing real economic struggles on the ground. Canadians deserve a government that understands their needs and works for them. Why do the Liberals and Conservatives keep putting the interests of elites ahead of hardworking Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to quote the member from Edmonton Strathcona in June of 2023. And I quote, when economists, journalists and members of Parliament have made it very clear that the carbon tax is not what is responsible for the cost of food increasing so much. I could also quote, Mr. Speaker, the member from Victoria who, and I quote, the PBO has put out a number of reports that confirms that 80% of Canadians get more money back than they pay. That was in March of 2024. And in September of 2022, the member of Victoria also said the carbon tax is a crucial part of any climate plan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Go climb the CN Tower, buddy.
The honourable member from Port Moody, Coquitlam.
Indigenous peoples across the country face a horrific housing crisis, brought on by constant government underfunding rooted in systemic discrimination. The Liberals are holding back 99.8% of the promised housing funding to Indigenous communities. It's shameful. And the Conservatives are no better. They voted over and over again against funding Indigenous housing. When will the Liberals end this discrimination and make sure Indigenous people have the homes they need?
If you were so confident in what you were saying,
Minister for
why do you need to read a script?
Indigenous Services.
this government has been investing in historic ways in closing the infrastructure gap for
Bro, it has not. This government
I don't know where the member
conned
your information
Indigenous people to vote for them,
quite frankly,
and then has left them all hanging.
all of our allotment every year.
Indigenous communities have brown water year-round in Canada.
And housing, and we're working with First Nations on solutions that are long-lasting and respectful of their culture and identity.
Indigenous communities do not like the Liberals. They do not even go to their land and acknowledge anything.
The Honourable Member for Sudbury.
As a member of the Standing Committee on National Defence, I hear from experts, members and academics alike about the importance of creating a respectful and professional work environment for the brave men and women of our armed forces. Over the past 2 years, Canadians have watched as Superior Court Justices Arbour and Fish put forward recommendations to modernize Canada's military justice system. Can the Minister of National Defence please update this House on the progress we are making on these very important recommendations?
The Honourable Minister for National Defence. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to, of course, thank the member for her very important question. I'm pleased to share with this House that the Military Justice Modernization Act is being debated in the House this week. And among a number of substantive amendments to the National Defence Act, this legislation will codify in law that CAF will no longer have jurisdiction over criminal code offences, sexual offences committed in Canada, and it will increase the independence of military justice actors. Mr. Speaker, this is the right thing to do for our people, for our military, and for our country. Let us not engage in political gamesmanship with this important legislation. Let's get it to committee to allow it to do its important work, and let's get it done. Mr. Speaker, people are counting on us.
Yeah, call an election. Just get it done.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Another tough day for the Liberal government. The Liberal is so bad for Quebec that his Quebec lieutenant has decided to jump ship in order to be able to defend Quebec better. The leader of the Bloc Québécois, though, wasted no time in applying to become the Prime Minister's new Quebec lieutenant. There was no need to negotiate for long, Mr. Speaker, because the position was open. Here's what we're wondering. Can the Prime Minister tell us when he plans to swear in his new Quebec lieutenant? And that would be, of course, the Bloc leader, the Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We absolutely cannot count on Conservatives to defend Quebec's interests or the interests of the government of Quebec because they want to cut all supports for daycare, public service, health transfers. Conservatives, including my Conservative colleague from Quebec, want to cut and slash everything. If they cut support for Quebecers...
It's going to cut your job too, bro.
The Honourable Member for...
Update your resume.
Cutting taxes on Quebecers. That's what we're going to cut, Mr. Speaker. Now, the Liberal Bloc has not achieved a thing for Quebec. Now the Bloc will support a federal government that's worse for Quebec than any other. A centralizing government that takes money out of Quebecers' pockets to expand its big federal machine. A government that imposes programs in Quebec's areas of jurisdiction and that has created the worst immigration chaos in history, bringing Quebec to a breaking point. A government that is imposing a job-killing forestry decree. Even the Premier of Quebec is imploring the Liberal Bloc to vote to defeat this bad government. Will the Liberal Bloc listen to Quebec? Or will they listen to the centralizing Liberal Prime Minister? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We will not harm the interests of Quebecers. In fact, the member for Mégantic-L'Érable should perhaps take care of members of his own riding. He should correct the lies of his party leader, who said that there's no dental care program in his riding, but in his riding, there are 11,000 seniors who are signed up, and yet he says that there's no dental care program, that it doesn't exist. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. The Bloc leader showed his true colours yesterday when the Bloc committed to supporting the Liberal government, but that won't benefit Quebec in the slightest. They've gotten no wins for forestry workers, no wins for seniors. That's the Liberal Bloc for you. When will the Prime Minister officially announce that the leader of the Bloc will take on the role of Liberal Lieutenant for Quebec? Minister of Public Services.
Dude, the timing of this is all crazy.
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, We can't count on Quebec's the Conservatives' Quebec lieutenant, because a few weeks ago he said money for modern transit said it should go to Quebecers, but then the leader of the party humiliated him and said, don't listen to my Quebec lieutenant. We're going to take that money from Quebec and give that money elsewhere. So this money doesn't belong to the Conservative Party or to the Conservative leader. It belongs to the Quebecers, and we would use that money to help Quebecers.
The
Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I represent a riding in Quebec, and I'm the political lieutenant for Quebec, and I'm proud to defend the interests of Quebecers. They want the third link. Meanwhile, the temporary lieutenant who's waiting for the Bloc Québécois leader to replace him as lieutenant does not want that. So the government has asked the Bloc to support them, but the National Assembly doesn't want that support. Yet the Bloc's been supporting them for 9 years. The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Well, if he's often in Quebec, then my colleague, who is his party's Quebec lieutenant, should have heard on Radio Canada recently what his party's leader has said. He said that the Canada Dental Care Plan does not exist. Meanwhile, in his own riding, there are 10,500 seniors who have benefited from the dental care plan. So, you know, the Conservative Party leader is a liar.
Dude, so many people have resigned from the Liberal cabinet this year.
Ça, c'est une déclaration qui n'est pas...
That is non-parliamentary.
Wow.
Language.
Yeah. Crack down on the Liberal stuff, too.
Draw his non-parliamentary language. I apologize, Mr. Speaker, for my use of non-parliamentary language.
All right.
The Honourable Member for...
Good job, Greg.
The drastic increase in temporary immigration that the Liberals have allowed is causing serious problems for provision of public services. Let's take a look at what's happening right now with asylum seekers. There are 4 provinces refusing to help Quebec by taking in their fair share of asylum seekers. 4 Conservative premiers, Mr. Speaker, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. These are Conservative premiers who are forcing Quebecers to take in a disproportionate share of asylum seekers. It's funny, though, we've never heard the Conservative leader tell his gang of Conservative premiers to stop overburdening Quebecers. So, according to the immigration minister, is that because the Conservative leader agrees with his gang of Conservative premiers? The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees.
This guy's totally screwed.
Carefully to the question. Here's my answer. Where there's smoke, there's fire. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean.
That's all he's got to say. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
In the spring, the Liberals promised a plan for sharing asylum seekers among the provinces. Well, here we are. It's fall now, and there is no plan, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
There's no plan. But despite all that, the Conservatives are trying to sabotage the plan before it even exists. Caught in the middle of all this are Quebecers, Mr. Speaker, Quebecers whose public services are overstretched. Asylum seekers can't meet their basic needs in a Quebec whose intake capacity has been exceeded. When will the Liberals and Conservatives understand that their irresponsibility is hurting both Quebecers and asylum seekers? The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees. Mr. Speaker, we all have responsibility. We all have a responsibility to show humanitarian compassion toward asylum seekers. Now, some provinces are playing politics at the expense of asylum seekers, but we will continue to work with provinces to ensure that all provinces do their fair share. Yes, Ontario and Quebec have taken on a disproportionate share, but we will make things fairer. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, it was interesting to have the chance to talk to forestry workers yesterday in committee. They're very worried about their future. The Environment Minister's decree threatens to kill at least 1,400 jobs, at least, not to mention the closure of several businesses and the possibility that some communities could be wiped off the map. If the Conservatives were in power, we wouldn't be talking about this decree. That's why I don't understand why the Bloc Québécois is keeping the Liberals in power without negotiating to have the decree cancelled. Why doesn't the Liberal Bloc understand that our regions need the forestry sector and need forestry workers? The Honourable Environment and Climate Change Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to...
Harry Pot Smoker.
13, the Harper government used the same emergency decree to protect a species. It wasn't
Took his glasses off.
Then, but now all of a sudden it's radical because we're doing it.
Bro, you climb the CN Tower in an orange jumpsuit. You are the definition
They've testified
of
at
radical.
the Environment Committee. We've heard from environmental experts. They tell us that we need to protect the forest in order to protect forestry jobs.
Hey, if you haven't yet already, I'd encourage you guys to smash that like button and subscribe.
Mr. Speaker.
We're like 100 people away from
inflation, interest rates,
rolling over to 112,000 subscribers.
The Minister of the Environment wants to make life even harder for forestry workers by imposing his disastrous decree. Many forestry workers are worried. They wonder why he's going after them. Meanwhile, the Bloc Québécois, which claims to defend Quebecers, is supporting the Liberals by giving them their vote of confidence without even negotiating to have the decree overturned. Will the minister think about the people behind all this and guarantee that he will not impose his decree? The Honourable Environment and Climate Change Minister. Mr. Speaker, we held consultations over the summer. We consulted hundreds of people, workers, people in the regions, experts, industry experts, environmentalists, ecologists, First Nations, many consultations. We will go ahead with our decree, but if they want us to cancel it, then Quebec needs to present us with a caribou habitat protection plan. They said they would do so. They committed to producing a plan. They haven't done so, but they didn't. So we needed to step in to protect both the environment and jobs. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, not only is the Bloc helping to keep the Liberals in power, but the Bloc is also blocking important committee work in order to protect the Prime Minister. Hiring carbon tax Carney is a conflict of interest. The Bloc is willing Carney to further his corporate interests without being accountable to Parliament. He should be required to appear before the committee to answer to Canadians. Why doesn't Mr. Carney take a public service position, one that can be reviewed by the Ethics Committee? Why doesn't he do that instead of conning Canadians? The Honourable Government House Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's always the same with Conservatives. Canadians want to contribute to Canada, but don't have the Conservatives' partisan view of things. And then what does the Conservative Party do? Attack them. It's disrespectful and inappropriate in our democracy. We can disagree.
Are you kidding me?
Attacking Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Dartmouth, that's rich coming from the Libs.
While the Conservatives attempt to block energy jobs for Nova Scotians and stand against prosperity for Atlantic Canada, our Liberal government is working hard to reduce energy costs while ensuring good jobs for Nova Scotians today and into the future. Can the Minister of Energy inform this House of our plan to protect Nova Scotians from an expensive power rate increase?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank the member from Dartmouth Cole Harbour for his ongoing excellent work in the province of Nova Scotia. I was in Halifax earlier this week to announce the negotiation of a $500 million loan guarantee with Nova Scotia Power. That will take the projected rate of increase in electricity rates in Nova Scotia from what was going to be 19% next year to the rate of inflation. It is an important step forward that the federal government is working to ensure affordability with respect to energy on a go-forward basis. We need to work to ensure affordability, reliability, and a non-emitting grid in every province and territory in this country.
Hey, bow tie guy stood up.
After 9 years, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up.
Time is up.
Mr. Speaker,
I like that.
let's play some Jeopardy. I'll have conflicts of interest for $1,000, Mr. Speaker. Answer. This person is advising the Prime Minister while also negotiating a $10 billion contract with his own company. He's also not subject to conflict of interest rules. The correct response would be, who is Carbon Tax Carney?
Yeah.
Why is it that these Liberals want to pad the pockets of insiders and play Canadians for fools while enriching their own best friends?
Yeah, well done.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I guess the member opposite will only get half his gold star from the leader today because all he did was announce the slogans, but he forgot to attack the other political parties. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to eminent Canadians who do not share the vision of the Conservatives, what do? They attack them. Mr. Speaker, there's a diversity of views in this country, and whether you agree with people or not doesn't mean that you should denigrate their character. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives should be ashamed of how they treat their fellow Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Did she actually just say we should be ashamed about how we treat our fellow Canadians? The reality is that
Colleagues.
I'll see you at the doors. They're trying to pick fights. They want to fight outside of Parliament. What the fuck is going on today?
It's very, very important. The best way to keep personal tax out of this is to, frankly, not take the floor when you're not recognized by the Speaker. And then that way, we don't have unfortunate comments that I'm certain that outside of this place, when you're downstairs in the room somewhere or talking to each other as real people, you would regret. Honourable Member from
Holy crap, man.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That answer speaks about shame. These Liberals should be ashamed for the way they are squandering Canadians' money while people are
put some W's in the chat for that, man.
That answer tells us another day at the
pissing away our money.
Another Liberal scandal, no big deal. This is a Liberal government that is long on entitlements and short on ethics. Carbon Tax Carney started advising the Prime Minister. Shortly after, one of his best friends got a $2 billion government. Why is this government lining pockets of its friends while Canadians line up at food banks?
It's so crooked. It's so corrupt.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
It's friggin' frustrating.
Wants to talk about entitlements, he should talk to the leader of his party who has a calculated $2 million pension, who lives in government housing, while at the same time looking to cut the pensions of Canadians, raise the age of retirement from 65 to 67, and cut the Canada Child Benefit and other benefits that help Canadians. Mr. Speaker, if he wants to talk to entitlements, he should look in the mirror first.
Bro, if Pierre fixes the country, double his pension. You do good, you get rewarded. You do bad,
after 9 years of
you don't get rewarded.
Taxes are up, costs are up, crime's up, and time's up, but this fake feminist Prime Minister is still up to his old tricks. Like so many women before, he shoved aside his female finance minister for his rich conflict of interest carbon tax Carney to take over. Carbon tax Carney will slap the carbon tax right back on home heating oil and let Canadians freeze in the dark this winter. He can afford those taxes, but they can't. Why is the finance minister letting herself be humiliated like this?
Notice how it's only conservative women who are going after Freeland?
Speaker, we won't take any lessons from the party opposite when it comes to fighting for equality in this country. Mr. Speaker, they were against $10 a day childcare. These are the cuts that they want to make, Mr. Speaker. They want to ensure and they support backdoor legislation that actually would ban abortions and take away women's right to choose, Mr. Speaker. Or, Mr. Speaker, the fact that their leader uses misogynistic hashtags in their videos to attract...
Didn't Trudeau elbow women on the House floor?
From them when it talks to ensuring that we support women in this country.
He's making his finance minister live in the shadow of carbon tax Carney. That's kind of misogynistic.
The Honourable Member from Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, this summer, I, like many Canadians, watched in horror as wildfires ravaged the municipality of Jasper and Jasper National Park.
Bro, taxes weren't high enough, I guess.
Strong and resilient.
That's a bad joke.
And
Poor
despite
taste.
the devastation, we will
People
rebuild
lost a lot.
stronger than before. I was able to visit the Wildfire Command Center in Jasper with the Prime Minister, Minister of Employment, and Mayor of Jasper. Can the Minister of Employment update Canadians how our government is supporting residents and businesses in Jasper?
Good question.
In all seriousness, man, the government didn't use a bunch of bomber planes.
Colleagues.
We have, take the carbon tax money and buy the resources, buy the tools to fight climate change, right? To fight the wildfires.
Grandparents and my parents. And this July, I visited Jasper and witnessed the devastation firsthand. And I want to thank from the bottom of my heart all of the first responders made sure that the destruction wasn't even worse. Mr. Speaker, we have a historical
shout out to the first responders.
Recover and rebuild faster. We have an act to amend the Canada National Parks Act, which will get the powers that the mayor needs in his hands. I urge every single party in this House to vote this motion in.
Shout out to the first responders, man, that were there fighting that fire and helping people evacuate. That was insane.
The honourable member from Courtenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, communities across the country are in crisis. They don't have the resources they need to support people who are struggling.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. You can't see it. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. You can't see it? Look now. Right here. French Conservative MP has his head right next to his phone. You know what that is? That's this stream. That's his stream. It's question period. He's not watching CPAC. He's watching this right here. Holy crap! Holy crap!
The honourable member from Courtenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker,
hi, Conservative MPs.
Country are in crisis. They don't have the resources they need to support people who are struggling with trauma, mental health, and substance use disorders. But the Liberals keep delaying support. Today, the Nutchanut Nations declared a state of emergency. They're pleading for federal help. This comes after every single substance use and addictions program application that they applied for was denied. What more will it take for the Liberals?
I'm absolutely sure.
Mental health resources that these nations desperately need.
Here, here. The Honourable Minister for Mental Health and Addictions.
Mr. Speaker, we know that across this country, the illegal toxic drug supply is taking the lives of loved ones every single day. That is why in Budget 2024, this government pledged to work directly with communities through the Emergency Treatment Fund, $150 million, Mr. Speaker, over the next 3 years to work directly with communities like the ones the member discussed, because we know we need to be there to save lives, Mr. Speaker, and that is exactly what we will be doing.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabasca. Mr. Speaker, I asked questions on October 23rd and February 8th about the problems that Canadians applying for greener home grants are experiencing. In my riding alone, there are 20 constituents still awaiting federal payment, even though they have already done the spending and the construction work has already been completed. This in Quebec is handled between 2 and 6 months, but in Canada, federally, if people are lucky, it can be handled in maybe 18 months. Can the minister tell us how and when this unacceptable situation will be fixed once and for all? The Honourable Natural Resources and Energy Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Green Building Fund is very important. It's important because it will improve building efficiency, all while bringing down greenhouse gas emissions. Many Canadians have received government payments from the federal government. If constituents in his riding are experiencing issues, I'm very open to discussing that with my colleague. Perhaps together we can find a solution.
All the time we have for question period today.
Holy smokes!
The member for New Westminster.
I know we're not looking at the gallery. We're not looking at the gallery. We did that once, and I did not see that coming. Holy smokes, folks! Thank you so much for participating in this live chat. Again, we knocked it out of the park. Over 4,200 peak concurrent viewers. Absolutely insane. Over 20,000 messages. The live chat. You guys. I don't want to say animals in a derogatory sense, but it's crazy. It's crazy. This community is awesome. Thank you so much for that. Over 20,000 messages have been launched in the live chat during the stream. This was wild, totally unexpected. Usually Wednesdays, my dudes, is the day that it gets crazy. So kudos to all of you for participating. Kudos to everybody for liking, subscribing. We're just like a couple hundred shy, or sorry, not a couple hundred. We're like 50 subscribers shy of 112,000 subs. So take this time right now. If it says subscribe, hit that button. It's free to do. And I'd love to see you all again next time. Fridays, I don't normally stream, so don't hold your breath until tomorrow morning. But likely we'll be back here on Monday. Let me just check the sitting calendar real quick. What month are we? September 23rd. Yeah, so they're here next month or next week as well. So I'll see you back on Monday, folks. Stay tuned to MSB because that is where we are going to we're going to basically chop up some of the highlights here and launch that because it's going to be absolutely insane. What happened today, Pierre Poilievre did in fact get ejected. So like he was given an ultimatum right off mic. That's what happened. The House Speaker said, hey man, look, you can't say those things. It's unparliamentary. So you got to go. And Pierre did, in fact, walk off the House floor. He was not seen again after that. So to all those that are asking, hey, whoa, what happened? What happened? That's what happened, folks. But we're going to call it here. This is going to redirect you to the video that I have premiering on MSB Extra. So stay tuned for that. Don't click off just yet. And I do want to say thank you to this, the last super chat there. Can I even see it, man? Can I even see that last super chat? It was a $20 US. The name's not showing up, for crying out loud. The name's not showing up. What the hell is going on here? Let's see. There's too many people. The chat's too crazy. Holy smokes. Let's see. $20 super chat. The poor man's poet. Got here late. Pierre was ejected. Holy moly, what did I miss? Keep fighting the good fight, brother. Thank you so much. $20 US. Holy smokes. That's a lot of money, man. I appreciate that. Thanks so much. Thank you to all the channel members that just joined, all the channel members that have existed, all the super chats. Obviously, it's not required to do that. Don't ever feel obligated. If you got the money to do it, if you want to, help fight climate change, allegedly, right? Theoretically, hypothetically, then you're more than welcome to donate, super chats, all that stuff. There's Buy Me a Coffee down below. There's even a Bitcoin wallet down below if that's your cup of tea. But nonetheless, I see some cheese. Let's end the stream with some cheese in the chat. Throw some cheese down in the chat because Trudeau is cheese. We've got full confirmation that MPs on the House floor are watching the stream. They're cheese. They're watching the stream while they're eating cheese. We just saw. I guarantee you, people are saying it's not. It absolutely, unequivocally is. The Conservative French MP was watching this stream on the House floor. We know the Liberals do it. We know Jagmeet does it. That's why he used footage from this channel, my face, my brand, my likeness, whatever you want to call it, in his breakup video with Justin Trudeau, one of the most arguably pivotal moments in recent Canadian history. So they are absolutely watching. Greg Fergus, stop muting the microphone! Stop muting the microphone! Grow a pair. We pay our taxes. Don't make me use my platform to get a petition going. I'll get millions of votes, bro. I'll get millions of votes for petition to have Greg Fergus disciplinary actioned, if that's even a sentence. Actioned disciplinarian. Greg Fergus, stop muting the mic, or I'll use my platform, all my channels combined, and you, sir, will be forced with disciplinary action. You know what I'm trying to say, folks. All right, here we go. That's the end. Thank you so much for watching. Peace and love, everybody. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you back here for videos until Monday comes, and then we'll see you for a live stream. Bye for now.